Steve Lyman, right here in the flesh. Steve Lyman came to Chicago all the way from SLC. So
I have to be on my best behavior now. It's nice to meet you.
What?
Good. Have you had is it like a brunch vibe? Brunch and is the coffee solid?
There's a French place.
Across the street, the coffee solid.
There's a French place with crepes.
I'm just gonna trust you.
Okay.
I'm gonna follow your.
What kind of coffee? Espresso.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your thing.
Yeah.
Espresso.
But I mean,
we
could go have food and then get coffee.
Do you want to get an espresso, then go get a crepe?
I love you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back left.
See you soon.
All right. This is on. This was on you.
I won't use swear words.
There we go.
Starting now. How many of these have you done?
I've done 3 podcast interviews. Ari, Blair Senta, do you know Blair?
Yeah.
And Carter McLean.
Killing.
And then
Incredible drummers.
you're the first television show.
Was this live?
What's happening? Nope.
Good. And are you in line too?
Are you in line?
For me?
You want that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're just gonna both do chili killers.
All right. That's all good to know.
Yeah. Those are vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, drummers around the world, Mr. Steve Lyman.
Hi.
Yay! This worked out perfectly because Steve was visiting from home in Salt Lake City,
That's right.
coming to Chicago to spend a few days with the great Jimmy Chamberlain. And they just spent the last 2 days together or 3 days together? 2 days? You flew in Monday, right?
I flew in Monday. We had dinner Monday night, and then I was at his house
Tuesday
for the
night.
past 2 days.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And it worked out perfectly because Jimmy lives about 20 minutes from here. So Steve is staying with his brother, who lives maybe 5 minutes from here in a car. You walked.
I have a brother who's a doctor
Yeah.
here in Evanston, so I was able to just spend some time with him.
That's
Which
awesome.
is nice, yeah.
That's awesome. And Steve and I have been
Chatting for a long time.
chatting for a long time, friends on Instagram, but met for the first time today. We had breakfast, and you may see some of that footage.
It was very good.
It was good.
It was very good.
And we're on our second coffee because Steve is a coffee guy. I am too, but this is a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
The espresso and then the coffee.
Now I'll have to put this down too. Bam! Don't fall on the drums.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dig deep. I want to go deep, and I know that watching you on Instagram, watching you kind of develop. I feel like the whole world got to watch you kind of develop your sound as you posted yourself practicing exercises that kept on ramping up in like complexity and accuracy continued to align. And some of the things that you're doing, very few people in the world can do, I think. I mean, mixing polymetric things with polyrhythmic things in a swing style,
Yeah.
it's super heavy.
Thank you.
We talked at breakfast, and I think that's going to be some footage that we'll use, but kind of your development into the growth of who you are now and kind of the path that you took of what you listened to and all that. So I think we're good with that.
Yeah.
But what I want to know, what I want to talk about is your approach to being an individual, your approach to kind of centering yourself in a way that allows you to know what that voice is that you're trying to develop as your unique voice.
Well, so I'm pretty disciplined in my life. You know, I think if I had to put it, if you were to say like maybe the ways that I'm successful outwardly are manifestation of me trying to work inwardly. Okay. So like I would say there's a beautiful feedback loop that can happen when anybody can just sort of ask him or herself like whatever truths you have, and then you just do that. And that's kind of a scary terrain that, you know, a lot of us are not trained to live in. And it's very easy to, and it's something that I, at this point, do, and it's the way I live. And sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's also really rewarding. Like, great opportunities can come out of it, but sometimes nothing comes out of it. You know, you'll put stuff online, you're thinking it's great, and it's going to get a lot of feedback, and it doesn't. That's kind of not the point. The point is that you're just being you. So I think for me, I would say I'm still a student of asking myself on a daily basis from a centering perspective, just listening, what are the truths in me, and then just doing that. And then life gets simple. Like practice becomes really sacred. It's always been sacred, but it's become more efficient, and I'm more capable of editing out things I need to work on, think why I want to work on them, not working on things and choosing to not work on other elements, and also putting myself out there in a vulnerable, visible quality, and maybe moving towards things that I want to work towards that maybe I have a fear of. Does that make sense? So it's just a daily discipline of listening. Yeah.
How do you start your day?
I usually wake up around 6 in the morning. I have a pretty intense dog because I'm an intense guy. So it's just me and my dog where I live in Salt Lake. And I wake up at 6. I make a coffee, and then I meditate for 2 hours.
2 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. But for me, it's necessary.
Yeah. Are you able to talk about your meditation practice?
I'm a Zen Buddhist, and so most of the time I go to my Zendo, which is where me and my community we practice.
So you go in the morning to a place?
Yeah, from like 7 to like 8:15. Then I get home and I may sit for another 20, 30 minutes, and then I take my dog on like an hour hike, and then I go practice. Then I teach for a few hours, some Skype lessons. Then I work on business stuff, and then I practice a little bit more. And it changes. Like the past few months, my life is kind of like I go through times where I'm doing not a lot, where I'm just at home in Salt Lake and I'm teaching and I'm practicing. But then I'll have like huge projects. So I was recently on DrumMantra, and I taught a modern jazz curriculum, so that was really prepping for that. I'm going on tour next week in a pretty intense band, so I'm preparing that music.
Right.
I wanted to be in good shape to hang with my hero Jimmy, so I practiced a lot for that. So I have like very specific targeted ways of practicing.
Mm-hmm.
But my day is, but whether I'm in Salt Lake or I'm traveling, it's pretty regimented. I wake up really early and I meditate, and then try to find some time to practice. But I don't practice like my practice is. I would say I meditate more assiduously than I practice, and I'm not trying to say like I don't practice. I definitely practice, but I practice in intervals. So like maybe I'll practice maybe 2 or 3 periods per day, maybe like 45 minutes on something. Then I'll take a break. I'll do something.
Yeah.
maybe like an hour on something else, and maybe sometimes I only get like 15 minutes, but it's like really focused.
Yep.
I don't really practice. I went through a long period of time where I would practice hours on end, and then sometimes I wouldn't practice enough. Like I should have practiced hours on end where I only put in like an hour. I'm a better musician and more focused now because I think I learn best in intervallic practicing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I love little segments throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's what
Philly
I do
Joe
too.
Jones used to practice that way, and when he was saying that, I was like, yes.
Well, there's only so long that a person can concentrate, and I would think that you probably are able to concentrate better than many because of your meditation practice.
I mean, maybe I'm still nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like an overcaffeinated nutso dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, so one of the things that hanging with Jimmy is probably among the more meaningful experiences in my life. He's like my hero.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But we were talking about a few different topics, and one thing was he did this research about how the brain learns, and basically you have like 2 hours in a day based on anybody's circadian rhythm, where that's like your peak time of like learning, and other times like you're going to get more in those 2 hours in a day than you are in like 6 hours in a different context.
Right.
So everyone's practice should sort of be different.
You have to figure out how to find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where in the day is that sweet spot for each individual?
Where's the balance between like discipline and joy? If it's all discipline, you're going to sound shitty. If you're all joy, you're going to have like I always practice from the standpoint of joy, and then from there, where are my weak spots, which are many. But from my weak spots, I can come up with things that I really want to work on, and they're usually related to musical goals, like things that I need. I know I need to improve in my playing.
Right. So when you say you start your practice do you start your practice with an intention to work on something, or do you start with a fluid kind of playing and then you start to analyze and go, oh,
Lately,
this is...
Well, I mean, so it depends. Like, there's usually like big sweeping things. So like, I'm going to go on this tour next week, and I know that my tendency will be to rush because I'll be excited. So I have a fair amount of facility, I have a fair amount of independence. So I'm not worried about like my technique. I'm worried. Like the thing that I'm worried about is like I really want to be seated in my ideas and my timekeeping, and so the big thing that I want to work on for this tour is how do I make my time just more down here? So I'm working on a lot of metronome studies that keep me rooted to this downward polarity. And then from there, it's different. Like most of the time I just get to the studio, I put on music that I'm into. I'm really into like, there's a lot of great electronic music from UK that I'm super inspired by. Lately I've been really into like, Tigran's music, but the electronic medium helps me just because I can lock into something that's like right on the money.
Right.
And the music that I'm into harmonically, it opens me up. So like I'll put something on, and then I'll like, man, I suck at like groupings of 7. So like I'll work on like some grouping of 7 that, man, my paradiddles suck too,
So you may be playing along to something, and then you go,
I'm just playing along to music that makes me feel good, and then from there, like
then you may notice that something didn't come out the way that you wanted it to.
I ask myself, what am I into that I can't do? Like, how do I like turn I pick 1 to 2 things per session that I can't do. Like
let's say groupings of 7,
or like put the metronome on like 20,
right,
and like trade 4s with yourself,
right,
and like see how much I rush,
right,
like at 20,
yeah.
And then from there, I can start to analyze. I can reverse engineer. Okay, I'm rushing or I'm dragging based on, okay, so like this is not aligned. So then I'll come up with like, independence patterns, or like sticking, or like I'll work it on technique from the standpoint of I know what I want to achieve. I know kind of what the goal is. So then I'll create a warm-up pattern based on the needs of that day.
Mhm.
I rarely do like 20 minutes of just like stick control and then go, because I feel like while that's helpful, it also kills inspiration.
Mhm.
So as long as I meet the quota of like moving towards things that I'm into, but I make sure I'm open and I'm really asking the question, what can't I do,
Mhm.
from a context of where I truly want to go.
Yeah.
I usually hit the targets that I should hit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
That works for me.
Yeah.
That might not work for everyone.
no, that's great. So you start your practice session in enjoyment of playing along to something, perhaps
And objective awareness.
with an awareness of things that aren't quite coming out the way that you think you want them to musically.
Or like
or-
even just like
or whatever.
My upstrokes suck.
Okay.
Like wow, man, what the hell?
So you may stop the music now and create some kind of exercise for yourself to work on something that you notice is
Or I'll like leave like a track that I'm into. Like I'll play like a musician that I'm really into is a guy named Clark, who's a Bristol-based musician, but now he lives in Germany. But like I love his music, so it allows me to sort of like chill and relax. But then I always make sure that I'm practicing. Like I'm in practice mode. So I'll do like some basic sticking pattern to warm up my hands, but I'm aware of where the muscle groups are tight and what rudimental exercises I need to work on.
Mhm.
So I try to always practice with like a physical awareness. But, and then I came up with like a pretty intense like jazz independence exercise. So I also develop a lot of my curriculum through teaching, where I work with a lot of people that are interested in what I have to offer, and then through that I find better methodologies of like, oh yeah, well this would be a really great way of working on this, and then I ask myself, can I do that?
Right.
And it's like, no, I
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's different each day.
Yeah.
But I do it each day. Does that make any sense?
Sure. Do you find yourself in natural movement and natural improvisation defaulting? Probably the
Yes.
answer is yes. You're doing things that's like,
I
dang
have-
it, I always do this.
I basically know only one rudiment, which is like a 6-stroke roll. I basically just know a 6-stroke roll, and everything's no. Yeah, I totally have patterns.
Mhm.
I have tons of patterns, but then I try to really see if I can do those patterns in ways that I can't normally do them. Yeah, I would say my best practice time is holding both being inspired by an idea and equally holding, trying to move towards and having the awareness that there are legitimate things that I can't do. So as long as my inspiration meets my discipline, if I can find any exercise,
Mhm.
I mean, this is really where my practice comes from. If I can find any exercise that is both inspirational for me, gets me to love the instrument each day, and also has a good portion of, like, can you do these? Are these things that you want to be doing? Are they functional for me?
Mhm.
You have to be aware of what you practice, because that becomes part of you, right? But as long as I hold these two streams,
Mhm.
good stuff usually comes out.
Yeah. So let's take, for instance, like you mentioned earlier, a 7-stroke sticking or
Yeah.
7-stroke expression. Will you write out that 7-stroke expression and come up with different combinations and then shed each one, or
I don't-
just think
that
to
would-
yourself 7 strokes?
I probably wouldn't write out, but there are certain things that I definitely do write out.
Mhm.
Most of the things that I write out are independent stuff.
Mhm.
So like, I created this concept of like of stacking rhythms
Mhm.
that if you're interested, you can message me, and I have like these little SD cards, and I can send them to you for a fee. And basically, it's play any of these. So in a jazz context, I like the jazz context because I like the polarity of constants and variables.
Mhm.
And I kind of learned that from my teacher, Ari, and also Bill Stewart, who's kind of like the guide of that. Because his independence is amazing, yes, and his ideas are amazing, but it's always serving like some really deep creative
Right.
It's like so primal.
Yeah.
It's like it's mathy, but it's not.
Oh, it's so organic.
It's super
It's so
organic,
and
but
so heavy and deep.
but it's like precise as
Yeah.
F. You know,
right,
it's like
right.
so that's kind of like that's like for me that's like the benchmark.
Yeah.
Because it's hitting me on a really gut level. It's not cerebral for the sake of being cerebral.
Right.
It's cerebral from the standpoint of, yeah, these are ideas that I need to work on, but if I can understand them, I can have the capacity to develop ideas that I otherwise wouldn't do. So, like, for instance, like I have this whole grid, which is like I'm playing time and I'm playing time. And there's like basic rhythms. So like quarter note triplets, half note triplets, dotted quarter notes, eighth notes in 5. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 2. All trips, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. Straight eighth, so then moving to straight eighth notes, E's and U's, dotted eighth notes, 16th notes, grouped in 5s, and like triplets, grouped in 5s. So then like the ride symbol would change depending on the different subdivisions too.
I think this is the thing that I did. Is this the thing that I sent you of what you did? That seems familiar. Like
yeah,
this.
I mean this is pretty recent. This is like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
This came after my drum camp. So basically, so can I do these rhythms? 1 with my snare,
Right.
2 with my bass,
Mhm.
and then can I like every combination?
Mhm.
Then can I do like singles
Mhm.
between each of those rhythms? Can I do doubles and paradiddles?
Mhm.
And then can I stack them? So like, can I do like quarter note triplets with like my left hand, then like trips with my bass drum? And that
Right.
sounds easy,
I
but
remember
it's
seeing you do that.
but
It's not. I practiced that stuff
it's
after I saw
actually
you doing it.
it's super not because like in my mind I would think it's easy, but it's really not because the trip is like really it's not in. There's like notes that are really like so. For instance, like dotted quarter notes and half note triplets.
Yeah, those don't fall together.
No, it's a 3 measure. But
It's a
anyway,
3-measure phrase, right? Yeah.
but like that's like a rhythm that like I'm like super into because
Yeah.
for me it's functional.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of it is the music that I would like to play. So the band that I'm going to be touring with is really really interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make so what these are training me to do from a nervous system standpoint is that I have a fair amount of command to both produce ideas in any juncture in the kit,
Right.
and I'm also deepening my rhythmic. I'm also creating new ideas that I would have not otherwise heard, but I'm also able to just like play time. And if I'm like playing with like Chris Potter or something like that, I'm going to be able to know where I'm at.
Right. Yeah.
Versus like, where the hell am I?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because his time's better than mine. I've only played with him once. That was like a long, long time ago. But if I play with him ever again, I hope that. Yeah.
There's some amazing saxophone players with ridiculous time.
Not a lot. There's a lot of saxophonists who don't have good time though.
Yeah, of course. But
Potter's one.
Brecker.
Yeah.
When a long time ago, I was transcribing a Vinny thing from a John Patitucci album, and it was Patitucci, Michael Brecker, and Vinny.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And I slowed it down
That's heavy.
to be able to tell what Vinny was doing, and his stuff was so
Good.
crazy,
Yeah.
but Brecker was blowing at the same time, and that was when I realized Brecker's time is insane. And that is what I used as my benchmarks of what was Vinny doing, because Brecker was so reliable that you could go, oh, this is a little grouping of 5, and here's a little thing of a flutter of this and that. And Brecker's time, I was like, oh my gosh, his time is insane.
Yeah. So I played with Chris Potter once, like when I was a student. It was a lesson format. I went to the new school, but this was at NYU. And this is for someone's lesson. And this is before, so I had a ride cymbal feel, which I thought was the best. And it was really not that great, but it was one right, And he starts playing, and immediately he starts playing a different feel. And I know that what he's doing makes sense to me, but I just completely lacked the ability to make his feel both swing and resonate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a really good learning experience because I need to really be able to adapt at all times to the musicians around me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, those are the things that I'm into.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about at breakfast, you mentioned the term micro subdivisions or micro.
I just wanted to sound cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded cool. And I think that those vehicles of studying, any kind of rhythmic complexity is going to give you a more centered sense of time.
Yeah.
Of course.
Totally.
And also, the deeper you understand how a polymeter functions, how polyrhythm functions, and how micro subdivisions function, like 30-second note, kind of 30-second note triplet kind of motion.
Mark's kind of the man of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because he focuses on the really small stuff.
Right. Yeah. When you can hear, when you understand those levels, then you can kind of cue into what someone else is doing and understand how to adjust to that, which probably in college you weren't quite at that point yet.
No, I thought I was. I thought I was the best. Yeah. But now, I would say now. I think it's really important to know where you're going. So, like, what kind of gigs do you want to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of stuff is really important for the kind of music that I'm trying to move towards.
Sure.
But there are certain things but I'm not practicing. Like if I wanted to be like a great like pocket player, like country player, like Jimmy said, I have a good pocket, which felt great. But like I think he must have been smoking something. I think I have a good pocket for the way that I play music, but like there are people like Carter has, like if it's like a groove gig, you're probably going to want to hire him. Like he loves that music more than I do, so he's going to sound better doing it. I'm a little bit kind of into like schizophrenic metal jazz. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, knowing where you want to go is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to also kind of like know what you're not focusing on. Like, you don't want to hire me for like a country gig. I would hate it, and I would sound terrible, and I would be a dick. Hopefully I wouldn't be. No, I wouldn't be a dick. But I mean, like, there's just so many guys that love that music so deeply that you need to hire them. Like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely grew up in an era, and I don't know if it's true now with people who are in college as much, but kind of the belief was you need to be able to do everything. You need to be able to play a pit gig. You need to be able to play, a foxtrot and a waltz and a this and this and this and a bossa nova and a Cuban thing, and so that was kind of how I grew up.
Sure,
thinking
it's super
you
helpful.
need to be ready for anything that comes to you.
Yeah.
And I think that you playing with people for a long time will give you the experience of melding with the unit. Like, you're about to go on tour with Chase. Who else is in that band?
Pretty heavy band. So it's Chase, and he's the saxophonist for Antonio Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a guy named John Escreed on piano, and he's the pianist in that band. Bassist named Dan Chemlinski, who played. Do you know that young Asian pianist? What's his name? Joey, something like that. Sensation, like he was like 12.
That 12, yeah.
He's his bassist.
Okay.
And then the guitarist by the name of Nir Felder, who's an old friend, just like one of the monsters of guitar. So it's like a serious band.
Super heavy band.
Yeah,
you haven't logged too many miles with. You've not logged any miles with the band.
Not with that particular John.
Individuals.
So the pianist and I years ago played a lot together.
Mm-hmm.
Nir and I used to play a lot together,
Mm-hmm.
and I had him come to. He's actually a pretty good friend of mine, and I had gigs in New York that I hired him on recently, and then I flew him out to Salt Lake a couple of times. I mean, we have a pretty good connection,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I mean, this is like these are. In the basis, and everyone we've played with each other in some form or another, but this is a different animal, And so, yeah, like I need to show up. And Antonio is the drummer on the parts, and it's like there's kind of a responsibility.
Yeah. Will there be rehearsals?
No, we're doing. I go to LA next Tuesday. The good thing is, so what we're doing is we're doing a master class in the afternoon, and we're kind of viewing that as a rehearsal, and then we play at this place called the Blue Whale that night. And then we have 2 dates in Oregon the next 2 days. So by that time, like, by the last gig, you'll be like killing, and then
Right.
I have to go home.
By the time it's over, you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's stupid. And then that band's going to be doing more touring in the U.S. and I think in Europe in March.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this year has been a big year for you.
It's huge.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've watched you kind of just make a decision and make it happen. You set an intention. I'm going to do a drum camp.
It was the crazy.
That was insane.
Oh, that was the hardest thing I've ever done.
What was hard about it?
It was successful,
Yeah.
but it was
The preparation,
the amount
getting
of-
people to come,
the amount of work. So like, yeah, I mean,
the organization.
I originally wanted 20 people to come because then I could just like have enough money to go to December and not have to think about anything. I got like 8 people,
Okay.
but that's like a lot of people for 6 days. So I modeled it after like a Zen meditation retreat. So it's like a 6-week intensive. And so the way that I did it, because I've done day camps before, when what I noticed is after 3 hours, everyone's brains. Like even recently with Jimmy, like we were both working on some stuff, and after 3 hours, we were just like, we're done. Like, let's go get some food, So like 3 hours is like good, and then you're just,
Yeah.
And then it was a 3-hour break, and then 3 hours. And during the 3-hour break, everyone's just like resting, and eating. But I did everything. So I was in charge of like food. I was in charge of like making sure we had enough food. When we ran out, I had to go to like Costco and like get food. And then like I had a dog, and I was like, it was just nuts.
Was it in a church?
Yeah, I rented a Unitarian church,
Okay.
and I paid for, and it was great. But everybody was great.
In 4/4, so 3s or 5s, 7s, and then I can learn to sort of maneuver them as I will in the context of 4/4. Like I'll play 4-bar phrases, sort of moving in and out of just those groupings.
One of the things that you learn is like, and I'm sure you know this too, is like you're going to come up with conflict where some people are going to be really happy, some people are going to be nitpicky about other things, and you're not going to make everyone happy. There's like, why are we doing 3 hours here and 3 hours there? And it's like, because I have to make this work for me, because your nervous system gets nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool because like I came up with that independence grid because that I just like, that was a creative thing that I could do. Like we could go into really deep stuff, like everybody felt fried. I had one student's like, this didn't really feel like an intensive to me. And I'm like, this is pretty intensive, So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely do it again at some point, and I'll probably charge a little bit more, to be honest, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's
6 days is a long time.
it's a lot of work, and it's like I kind of gave like everything I got,
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely hire like at least one, maybe if not two people, like one person to run food, and then like one person to just like do logistics, because it kind of compromises you as a teacher.
Right.
So yeah, this year's been great. Like Drumeo was huge.
Yeah, let's look at all the big things that happened. So
Sure.
you did the camp.
Yeah.
Then you did Drumeo.
Yeah, which is insane.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that dotted eighth note pattern, but I'm going to break it up by having my feet play a halftime feel where the bass drum plays 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's trickier than it sounds. Seeing there is I'm actually able to play my bass drum as a separate idea from this really complicated rhythmic and independence pattern.
Of course, this tour with Chase is a big deal.
It's great.
We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And your time with Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, are there other things? I feel like those are like these big milestones that kind of happen.
In the beginning of the year, I went to the UK.
Oh, that's right. You did a
I did
little clinic
tour in the UK, and then I did a tour. I did another tour. Like, yeah, there's like it's not like I'm doing like 6 months of craziness, but there's been pockets of pretty insane stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, I'm not going to go into details. It's also like the hardest year like that I've ever had, like on just a personal level. And somebody said to me, well, that's how, life is like that. So I've had like these successes, and there was like a month in the beginning of the year or spring that was like the hardest month of my life. And then I had to like focus on Drumeo at the same time. But I mean, maybe that's the way it need to be. I don't know. I mean, life is like
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime that something amazing happens, these extremes kind of pop out.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about meditation. And then when, I definitely don't meditate for 2 hours a day. I do it as often as I can remember. And when I do, it's short. And a lot of times I have to fight myself. Sometimes I just catch myself sitting and thinking. And I'm like, this is not productive, because you're playing something over in your mind.
Yeah, you're in your head.
And nothing is getting done. You think you're all here. Yeah. So I try to take myself, and I want to hear your meditation practice, because I think that big successes come from clarity, focus, intention.
As soon as I started really meditating, my life became. I mean, I still have a lot of challenges,
of course,
and I still have like things I'm frustrated with.
Yeah.
But I would say like my life has started to flow in a more significant way that outwardly seems successful based on my inner work. And I root it all to meditation for me.
I absolutely agree.
And it's like, if I didn't meditate, I would probably not be like a very functional human being.
Yeah.
Like really. So it's like, sometimes I do it for music and for career, but at its core, it's like, how do I just be like, I mean, music at this point, and Jimmy and I were talking about, it's like, that's like, it's like our mission, It's like, same with you, all the drummers that we're talking about, like that's,
yeah.
But like, I mean, he's also a really great dad, and he's a good person, he's like a full human being, and pretty good example, and yeah, I mean, I think meditation just allows a person to be their best selves. Because sometimes when you're practicing, I mean, how many times have we practiced where you just know you're not making any progress?
Right.
I think the way that you can think of meditation is, it's literally, so a common quote is, the mind is a great tool, but it's a terrible master. And so the practice is really, by cueing into your breath moment after moment, the monkey mind can sort of relax and deeper intuition can start to manifest.
Right.
And you don't have to agree with that terminology or not, but it's helpful for me. But the way you can think about it is if you just have, you don't have to practice 2 hours a day at all. Sometimes I only do it for half an hour, but I usually do it at least an hour baseline in chunks, like half an hour.
Meditation practice.
Yeah, like practice, meditation practice, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, and then,
Right.
Yeah. You're not supposed to, there's a general saying that you shouldn't meditate more than 35 minutes because then it becomes stale.
Mm-hmm.
But the practice is to not be in your brain. It's to be in your breath. And then just watch, if you just do that like 20 minutes a day,
Mm-hmm.
just watch how the rest of your day might have like 10% more ease.
Yeah.
Just like a little bit more levity. Just like that much more. But that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough.
Yeah, the way I kind of think about it is when you're just in your life, you've got all the things that you can see and all the things that you're thinking, and there's just, there's details. And in your mind, you're just thinking things over and over, the same things.
Yeah.
And when you're able to stop, focus on your breath, sit quietly, allow your thinking to come and go in a meditation. And what I like to think of it as is I always have this visualization of what meditation to me is. You get a slingshot, and when you decide to meditate, you pull that slingshot back, and what that's doing is it's bringing you deeper than the level of this. Obviously, you're going into a more kind of cosmic connection to the universe, or however you want to look at
Or
it.
just yourself.
Yeah. And then that slingshot, so your meditation is happening, and then when you come out of meditation, bang, you're
I think that's a
more
helpful,
laser focused.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
You're less
sense.
like in your head. You're ready to take care of business. I mean, every time I do it, I come out. And in yoga, I try to do yoga, and that is a form of meditation. Anything that causes you to be completely present is a meditation.
In your body.
Yeah. Where you have to be there. And fortunate for musicians, when we're playing, if we're doing it right, we're present. It's a practice in presence. It's a different kind of presence than meditation, which is kind of the removal of
The self.
things and the self. But as often as we can be completely present and not like doing this but thinking about this, we're more purely aligned with what we're doing, our intention.
We can be more available to here and right now, and so like that's why being an improviser or like a musician is really it's a really good analogy, because in life I can be more available to this and that and on very subtle levels, but in music I can be more available to we're going to go in this meter now. Oh, okay. Now I shouldn't play time. Now I need to lay. I can be really available to what this particular moment right now, what that needs. So in a certain way, your ability to focus on, can you hear the fan right now? All these things, like, you are going to be a better musician because you're coming from a fresh perspective moment after moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So in a certain way, going back to like, that's the alarm. So in a certain way, like, I think Mark said this once, and other people said it too. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen, but you can prepare for the unknown. So in my practice regiment, I like to consciously practice efficient ideas that inspire, that keep me loving the instrument, that are going to be related to where I want to go musically,
right,
for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, a lot of people say play a lot. I'm kind of more in the Jimmy school. Like, Jimmy's really good at being Jimmy. And I've always been like someone who's always had a very unique sound.
Mm-hmm.
I've always like I've always heard that. And
Yeah, definitely.
And he even told me, like, there was like this moment we were outside and I'm like, man, it's really weird. Like, I mean, you're like my hero and like we're friends, and there are gonna be times where I'm gonna like freak out because you're my hero, and we'll talk about, you know, other concepts. And then he even said, like, yeah, it's weird for me too. Like I hear me in you. So there was like this weird moment of like, whoa.
Yeah,
It was
right,
really
right.
beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
But he's done really well by embracing his truth in that way. Like he would tell you, like, there's a lot of gigs that he's just completely, and he's had some major opportunities, like where other drummers would just couldn't believe that he's just, I'm not going to name, but like that wasn't in his alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's great at that.
Yeah.
You know, he's also in a position to do that. You know, I'm not in that same boat, you know. But like I know for me, I'm less of a jack of all trades kind of person. And you know, where I live in a smaller town right now, like I'm a professor at a university, and you know, I want to instill those things. Like I've played a ton of gigs. I've played like Latin gigs. I've played jazz gigs, and obviously played rock gigs. But at this point, I think my sound is so part of me that I can't, like, even if I'm just fully present, me being my best self I'm going to have some type of me there. You know, and it's not me trying to be me. It's like, that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why some musicians really like to play with me. And I'm also, other people's that's not their preference.
Yeah.
But that's really more my way.
Right. I mean, it's not like, this journey is a lifetime.
Yeah.
So you're going to all of us continue to have our experiences and our self develops as we are on this journey. And I think the important thing is that you're true to your practice.
Yeah.
That you're
And it's different for everyone.
right.
Yeah.
True to self, true to practice, conscious, having an intention, being organized. All these things are what make a player become great.
Yeah.
When we're not wasting time. I think there's a lot of people out
And
there.
gratitude. Yeah, a lot of gratitude.
That's a huge one.
I'm learning that. I'm learning to be more grateful.
Yeah. Humility and gratitude.
Work on both of those.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
They're really important.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I try to actually to remember to kind of list the things that happened in the day
Yeah.
and just say, I'm so grateful for this.
Yeah.
And I play many gigs with a bass player in town, and we drive to the gigs together. And every gig, we're like, we are so lucky.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate
Yeah.
to have so much work in this city.
Brene Brown, do you know who she is? She's a shame researcher, but she's like really huge. Like she has like a Netflix special, and
Mm-hmm.
she like Oprah, like she's like all these national bestsellers. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's a big deal, and she does a lot of research. Like she and her team. She's just giant. Her TED Talk is the most watched TED Talk of all time.
Okay.
But what she noticed in people who have, like, in a documented way, like very, very full lives, like across the board, like these people, like maybe have more fulfilling lives than others. One thing that you see a stark difference in is the people that have maybe a more fuller experience than others have a gratitude practice as part of their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so like this week has been a very surreal week. So Jimmy's like without question, he's the most, like it's Jimmy, Tony Williams, and then like Jorge Rossi and like Mark and then Marcus, but it started with Jimmy. He's like my hero.
Yeah.
So like I got to spend like 2 days. I was like, is this going to happen? And like, it's unbelievable. It's insane. It's weird.
Yeah.
But like, I noticed I was like freaking out, and then I kind of got to a point of I'm gonna just practice gratitude, And then I just noticed by practicing gratitude, I was available more. My heart got bigger. I was more comfortable with him.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
used the term a couple times this morning, impostor syndrome.
Yeah, that's a huge
And
thing.
I think that when you are imposter syndrome makes you feel like you don't belong where you are. Like,
and it's
why
super
am I?
common.
How is this happening?
Yeah.
How am I at Jimmy Chamberlain's house? But
Which
when
is
you-
a rational thing to say.
right, exactly. But when you start to go, this
I'm
is
grateful
completely
to-
right.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity to, to have this expression and this experience. It just opens it up. It makes the playing field feel normal.
Then I can be in that moment and I can appreciate it. In the
Right.
short life that I have,
Right.
this very unique connection can take place fully.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not there, then I'm also not receiving it.
Right.
Right?
Also, having gratitude allows you to recognize those things instead of just flying through life. You actually are able to stop and go, I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and that there's something in that changes your trajectory energetically, I think, where it's just like your path opens even more and even more cool things happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've been great at a gratitude practice, but I've noticed with this just seemed above my pay grade. In Drumeo too, that was like another thing. I was like, whoa, like really, it's a pretty huge honor. You know? But like this one, this hit me pretty deep.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it hit me really, really deep, and my maybe it's all the training that I've done, but I got to a point where my nervous system kicked in. We're going to go to gratitude practice right now, and that's above my pay grade, and it works. And, and you can do that each day. Like, I try to on a small level. I approach my drums each day. Like I have a Cravia. Like you have these. I'm ordering a walnut kit soon. But I have a beautiful maple Craviato, and I get to like go and like play them. Like I'm gonna play different. And then if I'm playing music with people, they're gonna feel that. So now I'm at a point where I'm very careful of the gigs that I do. I don't really play in Salt Lake all that much. I'm focused a little bit more on. Like I might move to LA. I want to play with my world's getting a little smaller, but that's a conscious choice for me. And then when I want to play with other people, to open up in different terrains, like I want to be in a situation for me. I want to be in a situation for me where. Like Mark talks about this, and I resonate with. Like I want to protect that. Like there's a relational quality to it that, when Mark first said that, I was like, what do you need to protect? But I'm at a phase now where I actually kind of register with what he's saying, because there's like my heart's connected to this, and there's kind of a relationship there that these things are imperfect. Like they could get stolen, they could get burned. Your life's imperfect, mine is, but like while it's here, it's like, I want to take care of it.
Yeah. Not taking anything for granted, honoring all things.
Yeah.
Being in the moment.
You got to play with great musicians,
Right. Having an intention and a focus, being grateful. I mean, these are all things that you wouldn't think have anything to do with drumming. And I really hope that people watching this and listening to this who are drummers realize that so much success, quote, success, but an experience of fullness and richness comes from more than just sitting down and learning some chops. I mean, that's so low on the totem pole compared to all the things that make a rich and beautiful experience. The drumming is almost the smallest part
It's
of
a
it.
vehicle.
Yeah.
It's a vehicle, and we're lucky to love this and have some proclivity to it.
Right.
We've nurtured it. We've worked really, really hard.
Yeah.
But it's just some people, like my brother's a really great doctor, and he's really good at his job.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Right.
Dealing with like people like that like on who are sick, that's hard. Like telling people like
This is it.
yeah, he has to do that.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I think that we're so lucky to be in a culture, the drumming culture, or it's so fortunate to find something that you truly love, and
Yeah,
that
you're really
that
lucky.
you're ready to and willing, happily to dedicate your entire life to, no question.
And you
Like-
kind of don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. But man, there are people that don't ever get the opportunity to realize that there's something out there for them.
Yeah.
And I think that
Or there's people that know what it is, but they didn't do it, and that leads to some pain.
right. Yeah. Like follow your gut, but do it with so many levels of we've named all these qualities that really connect you to the vehicle and allow you to grow over the trajectory of an entire lifetime.
I remember Mark is, I'm sure I bugged him because I've tagged him too many times, but no, he's a deep dude. He's like a year older than me, but he's like a lifetime older than me. But he said something that resonated when I was in the UK doing clinic tour. It was really cool because he was playing at my friend / student who set up the tour got us tickets to Ronnie Scott's, and that was the night that Mark's band was playing, and we've been in touch through the years, but then we messaged each other a little bit after that, and he just said something that was very simple. Follow your bliss, and trust your gut and follow your bliss. And it's like, if you listen to like all the great sages of everyone that you really respect, it's kind of the same vibe. If you listen to like Vinny's, have you checked out Vinny's podcast?
I haven't listened to it yet.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Can name a drummer heavier than Vinny,
Right.
And he's kind of talking about like knot chops. He actually said like one thing, he's talking about gratitude all the time. He was talking about, I don't know if you should really even transcribe Elvin's solos. Like that's like I think it's the second episode. Vinny was talking about going to a master class and like heavy drummers, like really, really, really heavy drummers. This is like when he was a little bit younger, but he was killing. And he flew from LA or something to Boston. I think it's episode 2. It might be 1 or it's 1 or 2. And this guy had everybody, like really heavy drummers, start play me a groove, and everybody just like played a groove. Everybody's groove is good. And this guy, I don't know who it is. This guy played a groove, and it was just like immediate, like the difference between like having like a Starbucks coffee versus like an espresso. It's just like it's obvious that this is on a different plane of existence. Like, we don't need to talk about it. And then he said to everyone, okay, I'll see you guys in a week. Write me a paper on what you learned today. And then Vinny's outside, he's probably smoking, and he's just like, I got it. And then one of his friends is like, am I going to see you next week? He's like, nope, I got it. Nope. And what it was is like, there are certain things that can't be taught.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can learn this in a book, but I'm not, like, there's something else there, Like Jimmy was saying something to me, it's like, I can teach you to hit the notes, but I can't teach you to have a beautiful voice. And I was just like, whoa.
Right.
I don't know how we're on this tangent, but
Yeah.
I guess the reason I bring that up is because, we're talking about these kind of more esoteric terms, but it's like, the people that hit you the hardest, they think about this stuff. Herbie, like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think musicians are very deep thinkers,
they better be.
philosophers, very in tune. We're very fortunate to be in that world. Man, I think we could talk all day. We already have.
Yeah.
We've talked for several hours. You've got a plane to catch.
I do. I do.
One thing that we talked about earlier, and hopefully we're going to get this dialed in, is having you come up with a little lesson pack
Sure.
that we're going to put into the DrumMantra
Be honored. Yeah.
page, which would be amazing because I need something to work on. I
Let's-
need some Steve Lee to work on.
Oh man.
Every time I see one of your videos, I'm like, dang it, and I save it. Things to learn in my phone. Things to learn. There's a lot of yours,
You're a brilliant musician.
and I will. I'll pull it up and I'll.
I know you do.
Okay, here we go. In fact, if we went to my computer right now, there is actually a folder that says Steve Lyman, and I've programmed because, like I told you, the way I practice is I will program the exercises when they're very complex, and then play along on the pad, so I hear it perfectly, and just mimic as much as possible. And
Oh man. Well,
you've definitely made to my Ableton files.
I respect you immensely. I love your very focused and targeted and meaningful practice, and I love the videos that you post. And you're just a marvelous musician. So thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
All right,
I'm gonna catch this plane.
cool.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Thank you. Episode 1, Going Deeper.
Nice. I like it. Thanks, man. That was cool.
Yeah, man.
That was great. I actually do need it. Let me get it.
What time's your plane?
It's like 4:30.
You're probably 40 minutes from the airport.
I like to just get there early.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you don't want to mess around with Chicago traffic either.
Is it bad?
It can get crazy.